The phone in my purse was supposed to be dead. Just like my husband, Daniel Hayes, I sat in the front row of Grace Memorial Church, wearing the black dress Daniel had bought me for our anniversary, the same dress he once said made me look beautiful. Now it felt like a costume for the worst performance of my life. The casket sat 20 feet away, sealed like a secret I was never allowed to uncover. They said the crash was too brutal for an open viewing, that I shouldn't see what was left of him, which meant I never got to say goodbye to his face, only to the idea of him. My name is Clara Hayes, I'm 28 years old, and this is how I lost the man I thought I would grow old with. That thought alone was enough to shatter me. But then it came, the buzzing, a low, insistent vibration against my leg. Sharp, as a wasp's sting in the silent church. I froze, dozens of eyes were on me, the grieving widow in her black dress. But in that moment I knew this wasn't grief playing tricks. Something was wrong, very wrong. My fingers shook as I reached into my purse, and there it was, the glow of a phone that should have been buried forever. Daniel's phone, the same one I had watched them slip into his coffin last night, like closing a chapter of our life together. But here it was in my hands, buzzing with life. The message on the screen made my blood turn to ice water. Run. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. My chest felt tight, my heart stopped beating, and the silence of the church grew heavier. Slowly, I lifted my eyes from the glowing screen and looked around. Margaret, my mother-in-law, sat stiff in the front row, her eyes fixed on me, not sad, not grieving, just cold. Harold, Daniel's father, had his arms crossed tight, his jaw locked as he studied me like a hawk watching prey. Sophia, Daniel's sister, wore a smile on her lips, but it was strange, almost forced, and it never touched her eyes. My stomach twisted. They weren't just mourning, they were watching me, all of them. And in their faces I saw something I couldn't name, like they already knew what I had just read. Before I could think, another buzz shook my hand. Another message flashed. On the screen, don't look at them, get out, now. My hands trembled so hard I almost dropped the phone. None of this made sense. Daniel was dead. I saw his body in the hospital, pale, broken, lifeless. I signed the death papers myself. I planned this funeral. I knew it, I lived it. And yet here I was, clutching his phone. The same phone I watched them place inside his coffin, alive, glowing, sending me warnings. I turned my head slowly toward the casket at the front of the church. My throat tightened as one terrifying thought filled my mind. If Daniel's phone was here, buzzing in my hands, then who, or what, was in that box? The priest kept talking about eternal rest and God's plan, but all I could hear was my heart pounding in my ears. Margaret leaned over and whispered, "Clara, dear, you look pale. Are you feeling all right?" Her voice was sweet like honey, but her eyes were sharp like knives. "I'm fine," I whispered back, clutching the phone tighter. Another buzz. I looked down, trying to hide the screen from Margaret's prying eyes. "They're watching you. Act normal. Cry if you have to. But be ready to run." My skin crawled. Someone was playing a sick joke on me.
But who?
And how did they get Daniel's phone? I forced tears to come. It wasn't hard. The whole situation was insane enough to make anyone cry. There, Margaret patted my shoulder, but her touch felt cold, wrong. The priest asked everyone to bow their heads for a final prayer. I used the moment to look at the phone again. The car accident wasn't an accident. They killed Daniel. You're next. I almost dropped the phone. Killed Daniel? That was crazy.
He died in a car crash on Highway 9. The police said he fell asleep at the wheel. But then I remembered something strange.
Daniel had been scared the week before he died. He kept checking the locks on our doors. He said someone at work was causing trouble, but he wouldn't tell me who. The prayer ended. People started standing up. The funeral was almost over. Another message popped up. "Harold has been stealing from the company for years. Daniel found out." They couldn't let him talk. Harold? Daniel's own father? I looked at the old man in his expensive suit.
He owned Hayes Construction. It was a
family business, and Daniel worked there as the accountant. Had Daniel really discovered something bad enough to get himself killed? My phone buzzed again. Meet me at Riverside Park, the old oak tree. Come alone. Trust no one in this church. Especially not Margaret. I looked at Margaret. She was still watching me with those cold eyes. The service is over, dear, she said. Time to go to the cemetery. Where they would bury whoever. Was in that casket where they would expect me to throw dirt on a coffin that might be empty, or worse, might contain someone else entirely. I need some air, I said, standing up on shaky legs. Of course, dear, Margaret smiled. Sophia will go with you. No. I said it too fast, too sharp. I mean, I need to be alone for a minute. Margaret's smile flickered. Clara, you shouldn't be alone right now. You're in shock. I'll be fine. I clutched my purse tighter. Just 5 minutes. I walked toward the side door of the church. My legs felt like jelly, but I forced myself to move normally. Behind me, I heard Margaret whisper something to Harold. The phone buzzed again. They're following you. Go to the bathroom. Climb out the window. I'll explain everything at the park. Bathroom window. Like I was in some kind of spy movie, but what choice did I have? I went into the ladies' room and locked the door. The window was small but big. Enough for me to squeeze through. It opened onto the alley behind the church. I hiked up my black dress and climbed through. My heels hit the concrete with a sharp click. I kicked them off and ran barefoot down the alley. Behind me, I heard Margaret's voice. Clara, are you in there, dear? I didn't look back. Riverside Park was only 6 blocks away, but it felt like 6 miles. Every car that passed made me jump. Every shadow looked like someone following me. The old oak tree stood at the edge of the park, near the river. I'd been there 1,000 times with Daniel. We had our first kiss under that tree when we were teenagers, but Daniel was dead, wasn't he? I saw a figure sitting on the bench near the tree. Tall, wearing a baseball cap pulled low over his face. As I got closer, my heart nearly stopped. It was Daniel, my Daniel. Alive. Hello, Clara, he said softly. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. You're dead. I saw you in the hospital. That wasn't me. He stood up slowly. There was a nasty cut on his forehead and bruises on his neck, but he was very much alive. That was my cousin Jimmy. Same height, same build. The accident damaged his face so badly that ... Jimmy's dead? My voice was a whisper. Jimmy's been dead for 3 days. Harold killed him when he found out Jimmy was helping me gather evidence about the missing money. My legs gave out. I sat down hard on the bench. This is insane. I know how it sounds, but it's true. My father has been stealing from the company for years, millions of dollars. When I found out, I tried to confront him quietly. Give him a chance to make it right. Daniel sat beside me, but he kept looking around like someone might jump out of the bush. Instead, he decided to get rid of me, make it look like an accident, but I got lucky. I was driving to meet you for dinner when someone ran me off the road. I managed to jump out before my car went over the embankment. But the body. They needed a body to make the cover-up work. Jimmy was already dead, so they put him in my car and burned it. The fire destroyed most of the evidence. I stared at my husband's face, the face I thought I'd never see again. Why didn't you come to me? Why let me think you were dead? Because they're watching you. If I showed up alive, they'd know I survived. They'd kill us both and make it look like a murder-suicide. Grieving widow can't live without her husband, that kind of thing. The thought made me sick. So what's the plan? I've been gathering more evidence. Jimmy helped me copy files from Harold's computer before they killed him. Bank records, fake invoices, money transfers to offshore accounts. Enough to put Harold and Margaret in prison for the rest of their lives. Margaret's involved? She's been helping Harold cook the books for years. She's the one who suggested killing me when I got too close to the truth. My mother-in-law. The woman who pretended to care about me. Who patted my shoulder and called me dear while planning my murder. We need to go to the police, I said. We will, but first we need to get the evidence. It's hidden in our house. Our house. The house where Margaret and Harold had been staying since the accident. The The house where they were probably planning my convenient suicide. It's too dangerous. I said, it's the only way. The evidence is hidden in the basement. In that old trunk from my grandmother. They don't know about it. Daniel took my hand. It was warm and real and alive. I know I'm asking a lot. But this is our only chance to get justice for Jimmy, and make sure Harold and Margaret can't hurt anyone else. We drove to the house in Daniel's old truck, the one he kept in the garage at his friend Tom's place. I was still wearing my funeral dress, but I grabbed a pair of sneakers from my car. They think you're at the cemetery right now, Daniel said. The burial service should keep them busy for at least an hour. The house looked the same, but it felt different, like it belonged to strangers now. We went in through the back door. Daniel led me down to the basement. In the corner sat his grandmother's old trunk, covered with dust and spider webs. The evidence is in here, he said, lifting the heavy lid. Inside were manila folders full of papers, USB drives, and photographs. Years of evidence showing how Harold had been stealing from the company and covering it up.
This is it, Daniel said. This proves everything.
That's when we heard footsteps upstairs. They're back early, I whispered. Daniel grabbed the folders. Back door, now. But it was too late. Margaret's voice called down the stairs. Clara. Dear? Are you down there? We were trapped. Margaret appeared at the top of the basement stairs. When she saw Daniel, her face went white. Impossible, she breathed. Hello, Mother, Daniel said. Surprised to see me? Harold appeared behind her, followed by Sophia. They all stared at Daniel like they were seeing a ghost. You're supposed to be dead, Harold said. His voice was cold as winter. Sorry to disappoint you, Dad. Margaret recovered first. She always was the smart one in the family. Well, this is inconvenient, she said, but not unfixable. She pulled a gun from her purse, a small silver pistol that looked almost pretty in her wrinkled hands. Murder-suicide, she said calmly. Clara couldn't handle her grief, shot her husband's look-alike and then herself. Very tragic. People will ask questions, I said. They saw Daniel's body at the hospital. Bodies get mixed up all the time, Sophia said. Medical mistakes happen. Besides, who's going to investigate too closely? We own half the cops in this town, Harold nodded. The Hayes family has connections, Clara. We've been covering up inconvenient truths for years. Like stealing from your own company? Daniel asked. Like doing what's necessary to survive, Harold snapped. You always were too soft for this business. Too honest. Too honest to steal from people who trusted you. Those people were fools. They deserved what they got. What about Jimmy? I asked. Did he deserve to die too? Margaret's face hardened. Jimmy was a mistake. He should have minded his own business. He was family, Daniel said. Family that betrayed us, Sophia said, just like you did. I didn't betray anyone. I tried to give Harold a chance to make things right by threatening to go to the police. Harold laughed. You were always naive, son. So you killed your own nephew to cover up your crimes? Jimmy's death was necessary, Margaret said. Just like yours will be. She raised the gun and pointed it at Daniel. That's when I remembered the phone in my purse, Daniel's phone. The one that had been sending me messages. Wait, I said. I need to know something. How did you get Daniel's phone to work? I thought it was buried with the body, Margaret smiled. That wasn't Daniel's phone, dear. That was a burner phone we programmed to send those messages. We needed to get you out of the church and away from witnesses. My blood turned cold. You sent those messages? Of course. We needed to control where you went and what you did. Make sure you ended up exactly where we wanted you. But why the elaborate plan? Why not just kill me at the funeral? Too many witnesses, Harold said. This way, it looks like you discovered your husband was alive, couldn't handle the shock, and had a breakdown. You planned this whole thing, I said. The messages, the meeting at the park, everything. Very good, Clara, Margaret said, though you were a bit slower to catch on than we hoped. But Daniel really is alive. Unfortunately, yes. That was the one part of our plan that didn't work perfectly. But we're flexible. Sophia laughed. Did you really think Daniel would risk his life to save you? He's been hiding like a coward while you mourned him. That's not true, Daniel said, isn't it? You let your wife suffer for 3 days while you played dead. What kind of husband does that? I looked at Daniel. There was something in his eyes. Guilt? Fear? Daniel? I said, is there something you're not telling me? He looked away. Clara, oh, this is rich, Margaret said. You still don't know, do you, dear? Know what? Tell her, Daniel. Tell her the real reason you've been hiding. Daniel's face was pale. Clara, I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you, but me what? Margaret smiled like a snake. Your devoted husband has been having an affair with his secretary for 2 years. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? That's why he was really scared the week before the accident, not because of the stolen money. Because I found out about his little girlfriend and threatened to tell you. I stared at Daniel. Is it true? He couldn't look at me. Clara, I can explain. It's true. The words came out flat and dead. So you see, dear, Margaret continued, your marriage was already over. Daniel was planning to leave you anyway. The affair just gave us extra leverage. I felt like I was drowning. My husband wasn't the hero I thought he was. He was a cheater who let me suffer while he hid with his girlfriend. Where is she now? I asked. Your secretary? She's safe, Daniel said quietly. I couldn't risk her getting hurt. But you could risk me getting hurt. That's different. You're stronger than she is. The casual cruelty of those words took my breath away. I was stronger, so I deserved to suffer more. This is all very touching, Harold said. But we need to finish this. The longer we wait, the more complicated it gets. Margaret nodded and raised the gun again. I'm sorry it has to end this way, Clara. You really were a good daughter-in-law.
Wait, I said, I have a question. Make it quick.
The evidence Daniel collected, is it real? Harold laughed. Of course it's real. We really have been stealing from the company for years. But so what? We'll just move the money and start over somewhere else. And you're not worried about getting caught. Who's going to catch us? You'll both be dead. Jimmy's dead.
The only
witnesses are us. What about the police investigation? What investigation? Small-town cops aren't going to look too hard at a murder-suicide. Especially when the Hayes family donates so much money to their favorite charities. That's when I smiled. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt like I had some control. You're right, I said. Small-town cops probably wouldn't investigate very hard. So you understand why this has to happen, Margaret said. I understand perfectly. But there's something you should know. I pulled out my phone. My real phone, not the fake one they'd used to trick me. I've been recording this entire conversation. Margaret's face went white. What? Everything you just said? The confession about killing Jimmy, the theft, the planned murder-suicide. All of it is recorded. Give me that phone, Harold demanded. I don't think so. I held up the phone. Because this conversation isn't just being recorded. It's being live-streamed to my social media accounts. My friends, my family, the police department, everyone is hearing this right now. Margaret's hand shook. You're bluffing, am I? Check your own phones. I bet you're getting notifications right now. Sophia pulled out her phone. Her face went pale. Mom, there are dozens of comments. People are asking if this is real. Harold grabbed for my phone, but Daniel stepped between us. It's over, Dad, Daniel said. Everyone knows the truth now. Within minutes, we heard sirens outside.
Police.
Cars, ambulances, news vans, my live stream had gone viral. Margaret lowered the gun. There was no point in trying to kill us now. Too many people knew what had happened. You think you're so smart, she said to me. But you have no idea what you've done. The Hayes family has power in this town. We'll find a way out of this. Maybe, I said. But not today. The police burst through the door. They arrested Harold, Margaret, and Sophia. They read them their rights while news cameras rolled outside. Daniel tried to take my hand, but I pulled away. Clara, please, let me explain about the affair. There's nothing to explain. You chose to cheat. You chose to let me suffer. You chose to save yourself instead of trusting me with the truth. I was trying to protect you. You were trying to protect yourself. The police wanted to question us, but I asked for a few minutes alone first. I needed to process everything that had happened. My husband was alive, but our marriage was dead. His family had tried to kill us both, but they were in jail now. I had survived, but I wasn't sure what I was surviving for. 6 months later, I sat in a courtroom watching Harold Hayes get sentenced to 25 years in prison for murder, fraud, and attempted murder. Margaret got 20 years. Sophia got 15 years as an accessory. Daniel had testified against his own family. It was the first decent thing he'd done in months. After the trial, he tried to talk to me again. Clara, I know I messed up. But we could start over, try again. No, I said. We couldn't. But we're both alive. That has to count for something. We're alive because I was smart enough to start recording. Not because you were brave enough to protect me. He looked hurt, but I didn't care anymore. Some things can't be forgiven, even when you want to forgive them. I walked out of the courthouse alone. A year later, I was living in a different town, working for a newspaper as an investigative reporter. Turns out, almost getting murdered by your in-laws gives you a pretty good understanding of crime and corruption. I'd sold my story to a true crime podcast, and it had become one of their most popular episodes. People couldn't believe how close I'd come to being killed. Sometimes I got messages from other women who were dealing with dangerous family situations. I tried to help when I could, give advice, share resources. Let them know they weren't alone. I never remarried. Never even
Dated much.
I'd learned that the most important relationship you can have is the one with yourself. And I'd learned that I was stronger than I ever knew. 3 years after the trial, I got a phone call from an unknown number. Hello? I answered. Clara? It's Daniel. My stomach tightened. I hadn't spoken to him since the courthouse. What do you want? I wanted to apologize. Really apologize, not just for the affair, but for everything. For being a coward, for letting you suffer, for not protecting you when you needed me most. Okay, that's it, just okay? What do you want me to say, Daniel? That I forgive you? That we can be friends now? I don't know, maybe. I looked out the window of my apartment. It was raining, but the sun was trying to break through the clouds. I don't forgive you, I said. But I don't hate you either. I just don't think about you anymore. Oh, is that all? I guess so. I wanted you to know that I'm sorry. And that I think about what I did every day. Good, I said. You should. I hung up the phone and went back to writing my latest article. It was about corporate corruption in small towns. I'd become something of an expert on the subject. Outside, the rain stopped and the sun came out. I smiled and kept typing. People often ask me how I survived that day in the basement. How I knew to start recording. How I stayed calm when there was a gun pointed at my face. The truth is, I almost didn't survive. I almost believed that I was weak, that I needed someone else to save me. But then I remembered something my mother told me when I was little. Clara, the only person who can save you is you. So when I found myself in that basement, facing people who wanted me dead, I decided to save myself. I didn't wait for Daniel to be the hero. I didn't hope the police would figure it out. I took control of my own story, and that made all the difference. The phone that buzzed in my purse at the funeral wasn't really from beyond the grave. It was just another lie from people who thought they could control me. But here's what they didn't know. The dead don't send text messages. The living do, and I was very much alive. If something like this ever happened to you, if your in-laws, or someone close tried to betray you or hide a dark secret, what would you do? Would you stay quiet or fight back like Clara did? Share your thoughts in the comments, because your story might help someone else who's watching right now.
And
Don't forget, 1 second to subscribe is a big deal for me, but it keeps you connected to the next story.